Hey guys, it's Belle, and in this video we are going to be reading through chapter number 115 of my absolute favourite text from the early medieval period or from late antiquity, which is called De Physiognomia, or the Liber de Physiognomia, which is sort of like the book of physiognomy. And this book, as I've said before, is so interesting because it's basically a sort of reverse clocking guide for LGBT people. And this chapter is in particular on how you can identify essentially effeminate men by the shape of their bodies. So, really interesting, fascinating stuff. Let's get into it. Moles autem quosquidem cinedus dicunt, ita sunt, inclinato ad latus capite, conjunctis scapulis, qui extolunt calcanea, qui plerumque iunctos habent pedes, cum locuntur, qui glauciunt aliquatenus ut oves, qui nardem suam respiciunt, et qui nardem digitis suis dirigunt, arque fingunt, qui quod aut ipsi sputant aut ali solicite calcant et obtuerunt, qui sepe inspiciunt partes eas sui corporis quas pulcriore sibi aberve videntur, qui frequenter subrident loquentes, qui vocem tamquam perfractam habent, qui supercilia seiuncta, qui demissum superius cilium ita ut inferius occupetur, quibus salientibus etiam scapulae prosiliunt, qui movent corpus ut mulieres, qui brachia perversa habent, et qui tunicam cerca lumbos tendunt, qui cum rident clamant, et qui frequenter manus aliorum apprehendunt. Now, what does this all mean? So, the first sentence is moles autem quosquidem cinedus dicunt ita sunt. Now this word moles, it sort of means like soft men in Latin, but in the context of things like this, it can have connotations of effeminacy and homosexuality as well, because men are sort of stereotypically portrayed as like hard, stuff like this, and therefore the inverse of that is the sort of softness associated with water and such lot. Quosquidem, who certain men call kinedus, and they give the Greek term for it. Ita sunt, they are like this. Inclinato ad latus capite, with one head turned to the side, so they've got, I don't know, they hold their head at a bit of an angle. Conjunctis scapulis, with their sort of shoulders joined together. Now, obviously, it's impossible for their shoulders to be joined together. I think this sort of means like they turn their shoulders inwards a bit. Qui extolunt calcanea, so they raise their heels. So this is literally, I think we call it the flamingo like pose when taking photos today. So they raise their heels up. Qui plevumque iunctos avent pedes, who most of the time stand with their feet joined together, an interesting stereotype, cum locuntur, when they speak, qui glauciunt aliquatenus ut oves, who bleat sometimes like sheep, qui nardem suam respiciunt, who look at their nose, et qui nardem digitis suis dirigunt. Now I sort of translate this as who pick their nose with their teeth, with their fingers, for dirigunt. Atque fingunt, and they pretend things, and they play pretend. Qui quod aut ipsi sputant, who, these men who either spit or ali solicite calcant, or other ones of these kinedus, so other like soft men, like tread and trample around. Qui sepe inspiciunt partes eas sui corporis quas pulcriores sibi avere videntur. These men who often inspect, qui sepe inspiciunt partes eas sui corporis, those parts of his body, quas pulcriores sibi habere videntur, which appear to be the prettier parts, basically, of his body, those parts which he seems to have as the prettier parts of his body. So this is attributing a great deal of vanity, let's say, to these effeminate men, qui frequenter subordinent loquentes, who frequently giggle when they speak, qui vocem tamquam perfractam habent, who have a voice somewhat broken, perfractam. Now, my personal sort of guess is that this is referring to a voice that's pretty much like how I speak. Like a natal male voice that's been exposed to testosterone. It's therefore got a thicker larynx and it can go deeper in pitch, but by training and just by habit, these people speak at a higher pitch. And Greco-Roman texts tend to describe this voice as perfracta, as sort of broken, which is an interesting way to discuss it. And this is my favourite stereotype. It's very weird, a stereotype for effeminate men. Qui supercilia seiuncta, who have like joined eyebrows, which is a weird one. Qui demisum supervius cilium ita ut inferius occupator, who sort of have hair which is let loose so that it hangs down below, like in the lower part of their body. So these guys have long hair. Quibus salientibus etiam scapulae prociliunt, whose shoulders leap while they're dancing. Qui movent corpus ut mulieres, who move their body like women do. Now, notice that the word used here is mulier, not femina, because, like, mulier seems to be a term in Latin which refers more to social role than to biological realities or to biological sex. We can see this not only in this same book, Liber de Physiognomia, chapter 3, which I've done another video on called Ancient Roman Gender Theory, but we can also see this referred in Christian theological texts, such as Tertullianus's treatises on whether women should be veiled or not. He makes a distinction that mulier is a term which refers to social role and femina, which refers to the biological sex. So obviously it would be impossible to move one's body like the opposite biological sex, because the body itself is biologically sexed, and therefore it's impossible to move one's body in a way similar to how the body of the opposite biological sex moves. So this is, again, a sentence showing that the term mulier and muliebris, as an example, womanly, is referring to a sort of gender norm. So these men move their body in an effeminate manner. They move their body like women. Qui brachia perversa havent. They have perverse limbs. This is a weird one, and part of this also is because the word brachium can also mean like a member of the body, like a part of the body that extends outwards, which is why it can refer to like most commonly arms, but also I think legs. And in terms of extending from the body, it can also mean the like the penis, basically. So it's unclear from this whether this means that they have weird dicks or weird arms, but one of the two, let's say. Et qui tunicam circa lumbos tendunt, and who wear their tunic around their butt, basically. So they're wearing short skirts, quite literally, which we stand for them. Qui cum rident clamant, who sort of shout when they laugh, so they have a very loud laugh. Et qui frequenter manus aliorum apprehendent, and who frequently hold the hands of other men. Scandalous, lewd behaviour by these femboys in ancient Rome. So from start to finish, what this means is the softies, who certain men call the Kinedi, are like this. They have their head leant to one side, their shoulders are sort of turned in towards each other. They raise their heels. They often have their feet together when they speak. They bleat sometimes like sheep. They look at their nose and they pick their nose, and sometimes they spit, and some of them like trod and stamp around. These men often inspect parts of the body which they think are most beautiful. They often giggle when they speak, and they have a somewhat broken voice. They have joined eyebrows, and they let their hair hang down so that it occupies their lower regions of their body, whose shoulders leap when they dance, they move their body like women, and they have perverted limbs, and they wear their tunic around their arse, and they shout when they laugh, and they frequently hold the hands of other men. Scandalous stuff in ancient Rome. So there we go. This is the chapter describing not only what femboys, the moles, are like in late antique Roman Empire, but giving you a guide so that you can spot them from the shape of their bodies. So I hope that was an interesting little tidbit for Pride Month. If you want me to teach you Latin or any of the other languages that I do on this channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon, which will be linked in the description of this video. You can also join my Discord server, where I tend to post these little tidbits as pictures before I turn them into videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you'll have a nice day. Happy Pride, and goodbye everyone.